Yeah, I guess.
Okay. I would be sharing like a brief presentation. Thank you, Akintinde and Maximus, and I'm very grateful to the Vantage Africa Network for this opportunity. And I'll be starting off this conversation briefly by talking about the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship and like everything, the overview and just key points. And Maximus would be elaborating on the conversation. Then we'll take your questions towards the end. Fine. So Commonwealth Scholarship, as we all know, is one of the prestigious scholarships out there. And for me, it's been a journey of applications, hope and expectation, rejection. You know, it's everything all encompassing. And I know that in this audience, we have like a mixed audience. I know that there are people here that might have tried scholarships before and maybe they were rejected or they were on reserve and they didn't pull through. And I also know that we have people that are fresh starters that have never applied before and they just want to give this a shot for the first time. So we'll try as much as possible to carry everyone along and make you understand the basics of scholarship applications. So giving a brief overview of, sorry, so giving a brief overview of the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. Now we have the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office that handles like scholarship applications. So there are quite a number of scholarships that the Commonwealth put out there for people from developing countries. You have the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, the Commonwealth Master Scholarship, you have the Queen Elizabeth Commonwealth Scholarship, you have distance learning Commonwealth Scholarship. So there are like quite a number of scholarships, both for masters and for PhD. And the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship in particular, it's very unique from other scholarships because Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, you know, gives you the ability to apply to multiple schools at the same time. So in my time, I applied to about 7 schools. So it was 7 applications and like, so you applied to the school. In my time, I applied to the schools and then I applied to Commonwealth seven times. So it was a lot of work. And if you're here today, you know, wondering, this is like tedious, how would I do this? Trust me, we've all been there and we know the intensity, the fear, the issues around applications. So but Commonwealth Shared Scholarship has that unique feature in that you can do multiple applications, which also increases your chances of being selected. So I applied for 7, I got rejected by 5, and then I got 2. You see how that works. And one other unique feature of the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship is the fact that the school is the nominating agency. So the hitches that comes with the Commonwealth Masters, you know, I applied for Commonwealth Masters too. I had to go to Abuja and it was a lot of lobbying. I went there like 8 a.m. I didn't do my interview until like 8 p.m. And it was everything, you know, things that have to do with nominating agencies being your country. There are a lot of hitches, but the shared scholarship takes that out and, you know, schools are given the room to objectively assess their candidates and then pick who they want. So that's like gives you the opportunity to present yourself and then you know that this is merit, strictly merit based. So those are the key characteristics, if I must say, of the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. And just to like, for those that are just applying for the first time who may not have access to all the information, it's a fully funded scholarship. It covers practically everything from your application, visa application, your tuition, monthly stipends, which covers your accommodation, your feeding, and every other thing you need money to do. And trust me, it is quite okay. Like, it solves practically all your problems, and you may even have money to save. And it also covers your tuberculosis tests, and they give you stipends for research grants. And also, if you need to travel that is related to your study, you are able to access some funds to help you through that. So I just said this to give you a taste of what it is like. And if you are like me, who without a scholarship may not have this opportunity to be where I currently am studying outside Nigeria or outside a developing country, if you're not from Nigeria, then this is really for you. Trust me, you have to put in your all. And irrespective of whatever rejections you get, you have to keep pushing, because this can truly change your life. So now you have the application overview. So the Commonwealth application is quite a long and lengthy process, but it is worth it. You have the biodata, which are like your basic information, name, family, everything basic about you, your work experience. And this is also like very key. They need to know that you've had like one or two experiences. I don't think like professional experiences is mandatory, but for some schools, you know, I got one very painful rejection, and I think I was doing my master's in Nigeria, and I just quit because the rejection I got was really painful. The only reason they gave me was that I did not have enough professional experience. So I just left my master's in Ibadan and I went in search of experience. I got a job and I got that experience. So your work experience is important, and don't think that the experience is not enough. How you communicate this experience also matters. So you can go research on CV writing skills and all that, and then present whatever experience you have, communicate it in a very good way, and that also helps. Then you have a session for publication. So if you have publication, is an added advantage for you. And I'll encourage everyone, you still have time between when the application starts, and if you are able to get your work published, it is something. So try it out, and it boosts your chances. I didn't have a publication when I applied, but I had presented 2 works at 2 conferences. So I put that, though they were asking for publication, but I was able to talk about my conference presentation, my abstract, and all that. And I think that also helps you if you have that in place. And then your references, very importantly, you need people that can, you know, it's gone beyond the traditional referencing system where they just tell you this person is healthy, is sound, is in good health and all that. You need people of strong repute that can attest to, you know, your capabilities, what you've done, and what you are capable of. It is very important. Although for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, you are not expected to submit your references immediately, but during your application, you have to provide the details of your referees at the time of application. So you have 3 referees, and 2 are expected to turn it in. If you have the 3, why not? It's good. And then if you have any awards, this also helps. Don't neglect anything. If you've been recognized for community service, for anything at all, not not awards like take home to mama, or all those kind of best face, pretty face and all that. But if you have awards that show that you can contribute, that speaks to your community service, that speaks to your leadership, that speaks to your contribution and personal development, you can also include this. So the second part is the development impact essays, where you are expected to show how you think about development and what you can contribute to the development of your country. Because the background, if we can connect it, this scholarship is for people from developing nations, so they are expecting the development mindset from you, and this is where you are going to be tested. I'll talk briefly on that if I still have time. So you have your study outline, your detailed plan of study. Tola is going to go deeper into these objectives during the award, career plans, personal statement, and your voluntary and leadership experience. So this Commonwealth Shared Scholarship has about 6 core themes. So the theme is where all the courses are outlined. You have access and inclusion and opportunity, promoting global prosperity, science, technology for development, strengthening global peace, security and governance, strengthening the healthcare system and capacity, and then resilience and response to crisis. So all the courses that would be presented to you falls under each of these themes. So it is important for you to, understand the theme that you are interested in and what is expected of you. So moving forward, I'll be talking about like 3 core things that you need to know before application and during your application. So one is the passion, the why, the what, the where. You have to be passionate. It stems from the inside. What do you want to contribute? And I know that some people might have questions like, what I studied is different from what I'm passionate about, or what. And I think Tola can speak more about that, because I know he had that cross, because from what I know, what he studied in school might not um may not have been exactly what he's currently doing, so he can answer that more. For me, I've always been passionate about one particular area since I was a baby, and I've followed that passion through. So communicating that passion, why do you want this scholarship? If you're in Nigeria and here, I know many people want this to japa, but it's bigger than that. It's not just about relocating or escaping. Why do you want this thing? How what is that issue? You must be specific about the issue, and then you must know where. So in terms of your passion, where do you want to focus on? And then what school can offer you this opportunity? What CSC theme is in line with this passion? You must have the knowledge. I've come across a lot of applicants that they do not want to do the research. So having that background of research, in fact, before you begin your application, forget the deadline. Give yourself 1 to 2 weeks to really understand, think deeply. What do you want to contribute? Why do you want to do this? And where can you get this done, and where can you get like the knowledge to make this happen? And in terms of your preparation, research about the CSS, know the requirements. This looks like many people skip this process, but this is very key. Know what is required of you, know the school. And one other feature of Commonwealth Shared Scholarship is that you do not have the liberty of choosing any school, any course. There are key developmental courses that have been outlined with corresponding institutions. So do your research, know what the course is about. Is it in line with your passion? Because all these things have to tally. All these things, it has to tell a full story, a coherent story, something that you can see the passion, you can feel, okay, this is the reason why you're choosing this school, this is the reason why you're going into this team. It's holistic. So you have to do your research, you have to know the requirements, you have to know the school, what is the school's requirement, what is the course requirement. Check out the modules. Do they speak to the theme that you are going for? Do they speak to your why? Do they speak to to what you want to get out of this program? And then the last thing is your presentation. So how do you write these essays? Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, unlike the Shivning Scholarship, do not give you room for interviews. You do not have that one-on-one contact. So you can't say, okay, if I really didn't do well in my essays, interview gives you another opportunity to prove yourself. So you have to prove yourself right in the written format. You have to be able to prove your worth, prove your authenticity, you know, the uniqueness. What is your own unique selling point? And I do not encourage people to get past scholars essays. It's something I am vehemently against, not because it's morally wrong, but I think it skills your thinking. It boxes you up. So during my time, I did not ask for anyone's essay, though I had one person review my essay, and Tola was the one person. I'm really grateful for his help, but I did not ask him for his essays. And I think that many people make this mistake. I've had people reach out to me, Grace, can you send me your application? Can you send me your essays? While this may not be morally wrong or may not be outrightly spelled out wrong by the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, but I think it limits your thinking. I think it sort of robs you of that authenticity. Even if you don't directly plagiarize, it's it's kind of like you will be thinking along the path of that person's thoughts. You want to model your essays with that. So it takes away the authenticity. It takes away your own unique story, how you write, how you communicate. You know, there are different patterns of writing. Someone might be very good with storytelling. Another person might be very good with logic. And then if you are a storyteller that, you know, your story, you have a compelling story, compelling evidence to your story, and then you get someone that his own flow is logic, you would lose out from that your unique authentic voice, your unique authentic self. So I believe that everyone on this call has the chance. Forget, it's not just about your grades or whether you are, your story is your story, and your ability to communicate this can win you everything you need in life. So you need to know the unique thing about you. For me, it's been my passion from childhood, how I saw my dad and how the effect of nutrition, I could practically, he was someone I used as an example, how he suffered through this. That wasn't any other person's story. This was mine, and it was personal to me. And I used this to communicate my interest, my passion, where I'm going, and how I believe that this can be upscaled to reach out to other people to solve global problems. So your uniqueness is very important. And the last thing I want to talk about is the development impact essays. You have 4 impact essays. You have the impact one, talks about your proposed study. So why have you chosen this study, and what key development issue is of interest to you that relates to your proposed story, your proposed study? So you must be able to communicate the choice cost, and then how this relates to a global or a development issue that you want to solve. Then the second one is what you want to do on return to your home country. I know that many of us, in fact, even me, I fell a victim to this. You know, when you are asked this question, you want to, you know, you can't solve, you want to solve malnutrition, for example, in Africa. You cannot achieve this immediately you come back from your study. So you must learn how to be specific. Is it time? Is it time bound? Can this thing be achieved by you with your current level of education as a master's holder, do you have all the resources to solve this major problem? So you must target, the little and key things that are realistic and within your capacity to make the impact. So don't go overboard with your writing. Don't try to impress. Just the key things, and then use the SMART um, template to wage your key action points and to see if this fits. And then you must be specific with the target group. It's a requirement. You have to, okay, so who are you looking at? Which people are you looking at? Vulnerable people? Are you looking at advocacy group? Are you looking at? So you must be specific and you must communicate this group in your impact essay too. So the third one is what outcomes you expect to see as a result of your work. So if you look at all these development impact essays, it reminds me of monitoring and evaluation. So if you know how to monitor, okay, what this is, who are your target population, how do you monitor outcomes, how do you measure outcomes, and then the fourth thing is the impact. So, and there must be coherence in from the first impact statement to the fourth. You must ensure that everything is speaking to one thing. Just pick a key thing and you're looking at the monitoring and the evaluation of that key thing. So it must show coherence. You don't have to say you are trying to solve maternal mortality in Africa, and then on return to your home country you want to work with environmental, except that environmental work is in line with that goal, that or that issue that you've identified. You don't have to just jump into different things. Let there be coherence. Let everything flow. Let them see your thinking around this global problem and how you intend to contribute your own little quota, how you intend to measure the outcomes, and then the overall impact. So there's a difference between outcomes and impact. So your outcome is something that you can see in a short time, but impact, you are looking at, okay, you can't measure impact of something after just 2 months. It's too short, but you can track an outcome. So that is really important. Then the final thing before Tola takes over is what to do when writing. Number one, think about the reader. Number two, think about the reader. Number three, keep thinking about the reader. So it's all about how you communicate this to whoever is going through your essay. Forget yourself now. Sometimes you write essays, you're happy, like personally you can feel it, but can someone else feel it? It's not about the grammar. Don't be ambiguous. Let the reader or whoever is assessing your essay, he's not like he has to keep a dictionary to keep. So it's not by your flamboyance. How simply can you communicate your passion in a way that whoever is reading can feel that passion, can see the coherence, and can understand? So think about the reader while writing, keep thinking about the reader while writing, and keep thinking about the reader when writing. So thank you very much. Tola is going to pick it up from here, and at the end of the day, we'll take your questions. Yep.
Uh, Thank you. Thank you, Grace. You know, the good thing about the conversation is that even though I probably would, I'm not gonna apply for the Commonwealth, but I've been taking notes. I've been jotting because it's actually really interesting, not just for even the scholarship, but every time you have to apply for stuff, you have to really take notice of all these things. And of course, your last point actually made sense. Think about the reader. Think about the reader. Think about the reader. That's interesting. Thank you very much for that. Interesting presentation. So, guys, the recording will be made available. That's one. Then drop your questions. Not now. Just wait for your questions. I know you would. You probably would have questions coming around, but Tola would come around now uh and do justice to the next get of the engagement. Do you want me to share from here, sir?
I think I'm going to share because I kept making some changes
Oh, that's fine. So you can just share.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot, Grace, for that presentation, though. That was really powerful and straight to the point. And myself, of course, not applying now, I felt like I was learning new things, like Babs was saying, especially the way you ended it. Think about the reader, be specific and focus on your outcomes. I think those are important things we all need to note, whether or not we're applying for Commonwealth. Thanks a lot, Grace. So just a quick one. I'll just start from where she stopped. I'm actually trying to figure out how to share my screen now. It's sorry guys, it's a little too clumsy. Can you see it? Okay, perfect. I guess Grace has really touched on some of the things I wanted to say, so I'll just kind of skip through a couple of things. So the content I have in mind when I was doing this, the first thing, so I'm going to be speaking specifically to the Commonwealth Scholarship, but also kind of in a broader term, speak to what does it mean to apply for a scholarship, especially in the UK, because I know a couple of people here would probably have other scholarships in mind apart from Commonwealth. So the first thing is think about why your application. I think Grace really touched on some of the processes to thinking introspectively. So the scholarship really just doesn't want you to apply, but it wants you to think about how does doing or applying for this course, how does it fit into the broader spectrum of what you're doing? I know she mentioned the example of many people would, I mean, the natural instinct is that you probably just want to travel out, you want to jackpot or whatever. But the point is that here, the scholarship really wants to think deeply about why. So take it as that. Anything you're applying for, whether it's Commonwealth, whether it's Chevening, or so many other scholarships out there. The next thing is I'll talk about the essay structure. I think Grace has really touched on this too. She's pretty covered most of the things I want to cover, but I'll go deeply into how do you write, especially the personal statement part and the volunteering and leadership experience part. And then I'll talk about how do you draft your essays. What are the things you should be thinking about when you are itemizing your essays? I think one thing Grace mentioned is that, I mean, just taking a look again at our exchanges when she was applying like 2 years ago or last year, thinking about the way you start from a more generic framing and then you move. So it's like what you call a tunnel, right? So you go broad, you go narrower, then you end in a broader sense. So they want to see that, and I'll actually show you that it's quite scientific. So when your essays are being graded, they want to see how does this person moves from, say, for instance, thinking about the health sector in general to thinking about nutrition in the case of Grace, to thinking about specific issues in nutrition, such as child nutrition. So it's an art, but it's also a science. The next thing is check out the school. Many people just apply for scholarships without checking out the school, even if it's Chevening, right? I mean, my natural instinct is that I don't know how Chevening, for instance, is graded, but it goes through the school in some sort of ways, even if it's Chevening that would select you. They want to see, does this person understand what he wants to do at Sheffield, at Sussex, at Edinburgh? And then I'll show you what the evaluation criteria looks like. Then we'll run through a few samples, and then finally I'll just show you common errors that you should avoid. And so the first thing, why your application now? Graduate schools receive thousands of applications. There's no point repeating that. So you need to think about your essay as an avenue to complete your story. So you have your transcript showing them everything. Obviously, your transcript shows them you have a first class. Your transcript shows them you have a 2-2, which doesn't matter anyway. But what is the story behind that, right? And yeah, it's the last thing is that you need to sell yourself, but that takes a lot of introspective approach. What is this degree about? I know I'm still speaking kind of abstractly, but I want you to just get that abstract sense because it helps you to translate specific answers in your essay to it helps you to translate this to specific answers in your essay. So the essay structure and prompts. Usually the essay is marked. I think I said that. Then it's a science. So your content is graded. Let's say development impact. There are 4 development impacts in the Commonwealth Scholarship. So each is probably graded, let's say, on a point scale of 5. So even if you put so much energy into explaining why you just need to get the scholarship and you don't talk a lot about what do you understand about your proposed area, you're probably going to not have good marks. So everything is graded. So take every question as important as the other ones. So I think Grace has really rushed through, she has gone through, sorry, the 4 development impact statements. And so I'll start from the study outline, then I'll go to the detailed plan of study, and then take a quick look at objectives during the award. I'm not sure I'm getting the structure right, Grace. Is this, I mean, it's been a while. I just quickly looked through my,
Yeah, I think this is
okay.
fine. Yeah.
Then I'll take the long-term career plans. Then we'll take a look at the personal statements and then your voluntary and leadership experience. So quick one. How do you start drafting your essays? Think of it as these 4 questions. Number 1, what triggered your interest in graduate studies? Now, necessarily not why do you want to study for an MSc in food science or for an MSc in data science. The first thing now is why actually do you want to take an MSc? Because there's no natural rule that says you should have an MSc anyway. So you start by saying, why do I want to do an MSc? What have you done recently in terms of your academic engagement, whether it is that you have good grades or, like Grace mentioned, you probably have some publications or some academic presentations. And then what areas are you interested in? We can't emphasize that enough. And finally, what experiences best demonstrate your ability? So think about this as you are drawing an academic journey that leads to a professional end. So the professional end could be a job, it could be, in fact, even further studies. You want to do a PhD, it could be also more community work, anything. But think about an academic journey that leads to that. And yeah, how do you organize your essays? Start with a story. Now, when I mean start with a story, I'm not saying, and I've seen this a lot of times, these are common errors that people need to avoid. Starting with as a child or when I was in secondary school and those kind of things. It's good, perhaps it works for you, but generally, I personally just think it turns me off. Like you don't need to do that, okay? So when I mean start with a story, what is the overarching thing you are trying to look out for by applying to this course? And how does that fit into what you're doing currently? So in your story, you also want to demonstrate intellectual passion. I tell you something. When I was at the KDI and I worked at the writing center, I did have opportunities to look at, obviously I wasn't a reviewer, but to look at people's essays in, like, whether you're applying for other scholarships or even those who had applied in the past. And this is one thing I see. People who show excellent professional traction, but also understand the academic theme in the course they're trying to study, they always end up getting selected. So for instance, I'll take the example of Tunde. Tunde works in the media and development industry, right? So it shows that I've had some couple of experience working with PTCID or some other firms, but it also shows that I understand what the academic debates are in the media and development space, because obviously they're quite the same, but they're also different. So if you are practicing as a dietitian, as a public health professional like Grace, there are things you do practically, but there are also things that are the ongoing academic debate. So out of your story, you want to show what you're doing, but you also want to show that, hey, I understand everything that has to go on in the academics about this course. So demonstrate that intellectual passion. Then the middle section of your essay should speak to both your intellectual passion and then your experience and possible areas of future research. Then conclude with why you think you will do well in the program. I know it still sounds abstract, but I think if you are able to follow me, you get what I'm saying by the time I start showing the samples. And then the last thing, I can't emphasize this enough: proofread, revise, and repeat. Now, many people just, I know people do this a lot, just copy your past essays. Frankly, I've also done that a couple of times. But the difference is that when I take my past essays, I take a look at them. I look at are there areas of convergence between the past essay and this new one I'm trying to apply for? If there are none, I just dump it and start writing all over again. But sometimes there are, so I bring them together. I kind of try to proofread, to revise and edit it. Then you give someone to proofread. Personally, I would say you definitely can get the scholarships without people proofreading for you, but it's good and better to actually have people proofread for you. So do this over and over again. If you proofread once or twice, I expect you to go over it at least twice. Okay, so I'm just going to show you. I'd like people to point out what you think. What you think are the observable patterns in this sample. Now, this is an essay for a MasterCard scholarship at UBC. sorry guys. So this person starts with, sorry, excuse me. This person starts with a general opening and motivation as to why they want to go to school. Oh, sorry, please, can you give me a second? I need to get some water, maybe.
Sorry, bro. Get water.
Okay, sorry for that, please. So this person starts from, I mean, the good part of this essay is that it starts from a general conceptualization of why they want to go to graduate school. It says I have a bachelor's degree, I'm hardworking, and this is why I want to go to graduate school. But you can also spot some errors there. Now, the error is that this person speaks in very general terms. So for instance, here it says, I made a difference and attained a bachelor's degree in one of Nigeria's best universities. Which university? University of Ibadan. People are really not interested in, this kind of framings and phrases. So be specific. I would expect that your general statement starts with 2 or 3 lines is okay, especially if you have word limits of like 150 or 200 words. 1 or 2 lines, general statement, go straight into why are you applying for this scholarship? What do you hope to gain with that? But there's also a pattern to this. Now, the pattern I really want you to see is that there's a rise and fall sequencing. So you can start with, for instance, I'm trying to put this as practical as possible. Okay, I'm studying Africa and international development. A rising sequence would be that what is the big issue in Africa that I'm really interested in, or the big issue in international development that I'm really interested in. Then it falls. I say why it relates to what I'm doing currently. Then it rises again. What do I want to do with it? So it's a rise, and just think of it as a rise and fall sequencing. We don't have so much time for me to review everything, but that's the point. You start from a general, specific kind of thing. Yeah, again, this is another style. You can start with kind of calling people's attention to something. So for instance, this essay says, tell us what your most important accomplishment is. Actually, I wrote this. So it says, I started by saying that, okay, I considered joining this organization and co-founding this organization as my blah, 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 blah. So this is kind of like an attention. Then I go to the need. Why did I start that? Or why did I do that? Then here I point out the need. I said there was a dearth of leadership in my community and the unpreparedness of young people. Then I go to what did I do? I actively engage over 300 people to do this. So there's an attention, you are telling them to see what you're doing, then you're showing the need, what was the problem, then you're showing what did you do to solve it. So there are 2 ways you can think about writing your essay. You can have the rise and fall style. It looks kind of abstract gibberish, but I tell you it works. Then you can have the sort of like, it's called morals motivated sequencing, but you don't need that. It's just English. So you have an attention step, you have the need, then you have the final point. Now, the next point I want to say is that ensure you check out the school. Many people do this. You just want to apply for a scholarship, you quickly, there's Commonwealth Scholarship, you write your essays. When I mean check out the school, I really mean check out the school. Check out the department, check out what's the entry requirements. It's usually there. Now, the trick to it is that for the Commonwealth Scholarship, I don't know how it is this year. In previous years, you apply both to the school, you get an admission, and then to the scholarship. So it can be quite tricky if you did apply and probably got admission, but you didn't get the scholarship. Perhaps because many reasons, but one of the reasons is also that people don't try as well to connect why the school, the admission you got, and then the scholarship. These are 2 different things. Now, and the good way to do that is check out the school. What's the thinking pattern in the school? What are the course requirements? And you would easily find this if you spend more time on their website. So what are the course requirements? How do you apply? Who are the faculty members? And that's why I use the word school. What do they do? What kind of research are they doing? Because you need to fit into the broader picture. Say, for instance, and I deliberately use this sample, yeah? And so this is a prompt for a master's in development planning at UCL. Now, I think I was just doing some research for a friend who attempted to do something around development planning or development evaluation. Now, I thought that the master's in development planning at UCL was about planning development projects, right? But in reality, it was about urban housing and planning, because actually urban housing and planning is called development planning too. And if you relate that to Nigeria, they call the Ministry of Development Planning or Development Planning Unit. It's about urban housing and planning, not planning development projects. Now, if I had seen this course on the Commonwealth Scholarship and I was like, development planning, I start writing my essay. I want to engage in development projects. It looks good, but I'm actually off track. I'm going on a tangent because this program is focused on environment, housing. So if you check out the program, if you took your time to be patient enough, you will get the minor details that you probably wouldn't get from your scholarship information. So spend much time on the school. I mean, recently I was trying to apply to a particular school, and for more than 2-3 months, actually, I went to the website almost every day. It's funny. I read the entry requirements again and again. I read the faculty members. I read what they're doing. I read what kind of research is going on in that institute, because it helps you to think. Now, so this particular essay says that when we assess your application, we want to learn 5 things or 6 things. Number 1, why do you want to study development administration and planning at graduate level? I already told you what the course is about. It's about environment. It's about housing and planning. So you want to focus on that. Then it goes on to say, why do you want to study it at UCL? First of all, why do you need a master's? Not everybody assumes you need a master's anyway. So why do you need an MSc? Why do you need it at UCL? What particularly attracts you to the chosen program? Now, you can actually use this in your study outline. As I'll soon show you what the study outline is about. Your study outline shows why do you choose the UK, but it also shows why do you choose this school, because there are hundreds of schools in the UK anyway. So if you can take this as a way to write a study outline. So if you're asked to write a study outline in the Commonwealth Scholarship, start with why do you want to study development and nutrition at planning level, at graduate level, and also in the UK. Why you choose your particular school, let's say UCL in this case, why you chose that program, what has attracted you to it, and what will you bring to the course? So those are ways to think about your study outline. And of course, finally, what do you want to do with it professionally or academically anyway, if you plan to do a PhD? Yeah, so this is pretty important. Let's take a look at this. This is like what I call the evaluation criteria for the Commonwealth Scholarship. This was 2 years ago, so I'm not sure. Things may have changed now, but I'm sure it still works to a good extent. Now, there are 4 criteria, right? The first is your academic merit. Of course, to be frank with you, one thing about the Commonwealth Scholarship is that you stand a good chance when you have a first class or a 2-1. Not to say that if you have a 2-2, you don't stand a chance. I know 2019 class, there were a couple of people who had 2-2s, but that was quite the exception, not the rule. Okay, so primary indicators to academic merit, they look at your result, your transcript, and then, like Grace said, secondary indicators. Now, so primary indicators means that, let's say there are 20 marks for academic merit. These have the majority of the marks. So this might be, let's say, 15. Then the secondary indicators might be 5. So you list your other things, academic prizes, your academic achievement, and if you had publications. Then the next thing, this is actually really if you're applying for a PhD, so we'll skip it. Your study plans. What are the things they are looking for? Statement of what the candidate wants to learn. Now, it's pretty interesting, right? When people write study plans, people say a lot of things they want to do. Okay, I want to do an MSc in development because I want to change the narrative of development in Africa. These are things I see. I see it every time. No, nobody's asking you for that. I want to study development could be as simple as I want to study, say I'm doing African and international development because I want to better understand how to position Africa in development. That's valid enough. So actually, there's no one way to do it, but there's one way not to do it. One way not to do it is that don't be generic. Don't say big statement. One way to do it, or one of the ways to do it is to be specific, right? Okay, then the next thing is extent to which the proposed course and institution of study have been well researched. Do you see that? Now, Commonwealth Scholarship gives you something different. So quick one, let me go to the study outline. I have a few sample essays here. I'm trying to see. So for instance, the study outline last year says, provide a detailed plan of your proposed study. The selection panel will want to understand why you have chosen your selected courses and universities. Now, the panel just says, oh, by the way, the panel is also the school, says, we want to know why you have chosen your proposed course and studies. But when they are grading you, they are looking at what is the extent to which you have researched. Now, the extent to which you have researched includes being able to mention the course modules on the program. You definitely won't know that from the Commonwealth website, except you research the school. What are the course modules? What are the types of research they are doing? What are the issues they are focusing on? I just use an example of UCL. UCL is doing development planning, but development planning UCL is about environment, not project management. So you see the difference. So they would easily get you if you didn't do your research, right? Then it says including specific options and dissertation topics. So for instance, I know I was reading an applicant essay last year who was, I think it was writing on education. And sorry, I don't want to speak on my head. I'm just trying to look for samples. Okay, yeah. So this person wanted to work on out of school children, and the person did it. I mean, wrote his study outline, but also gave a topic on out of school children in Nigeria, how he wants to go about it, what kind of method he wants to use. And that's interesting. When you read that, you know that this person is actually really prepared for what they want to do. And secondary indicators include two things. Number one, if you have an admission on the course, and I tell you, this is very important. If you're applying for the Commonwealth Scholarship, I think it just came out like 2-3 days ago, the one for this year, try to apply for the courses first. Ensure you get an admission or a conditional offer, whichever one. But I think an unconditional offer works really better. Try to get an admission and then apply. It shows them that, okay, this person was able to get into our course, then, why not give him or her the scholarship, right? And then the clarity of your presentation. Now, I can't emphasize this enough. Don't use, one of the things that's really mentioned in the guide is that don't use jargon, don't use words that your readers may not understand. Even if your readers are experts in your program, it is possible that there's someone on the panel who is not an expert in health, for instance. So you start mentioning words like, tell me the health terms you use, right? So use words that are simple to understand. And when you use abbreviations, try to explain them, okay? So, and then the development impact, you can see also the primary indicators here. If you can take a screenshot on the slide, that would be good for you. I'll just wait like 2 or 3 seconds for people who want to take a screenshot of the. So this really helps you to think about, how do I organize my essays to fit these indicators? Obviously, it doesn't mean that you have to be rigid, but it also means that you have to speak to the issues, right? Okay, I guess people have taken the screenshot. So just like wrapping up now. So think of the marking guide I showed you in the previous slide. So let's read this essay. Do you think this applicant answers well? I'll just read the chat box since people are not able to really talk. Do you think this applicant answers well? Does she answer these questions well? Anyone in the chat? So think about the previous marking guide I showed you, or evaluation criteria I showed you. And what do you think about this applicant? Do you think she answered these questions well? Okay, somebody said yes. Okay, only one person. Does anyone think she didn't answer well? Do you think she didn't do justice to it? Perhaps you're still trying to read through. This is a study outline, Is this a study outline? No, this is a development impact statement. One. Yeah, she answered well. Yeah, I think she really did answer well. But I'll just point out a few things that I underlined here in this essay. So the first thing is that the person mentions that my proposed study borders on, again, the bigger issues, developmental issues of hunger, malnutrition, and NCDs, whatever. Then she goes down, if you read towards the end, to be specific and say, I am focusing on under 5 children and, blah, blah, blah. So it starts from a generic one. This is what I'm trying to let you see. You start from a very generic opening, then you go narrow a little bit, and then you broaden it again. Now, so I'll read the ending for you. This person says, as a dietitian and public health researcher, my understanding of these challenges is what has influenced me to embark on a broader research to contribute meaningfully to solving these challenges at both local and global levels by applying for the master's program under the Strengthening Health Systems and Capacity theme. Now, one other trick to it, when you write your development impact statement, one, ensure you mention the theme under which you're applying. I tell you, it is part of the grading criteria because Commonwealth lists, we have 6 themes. They want people who have an understanding of what they are doing. I know this is what Commonwealth is doing. I know this is a theme under which my program falls. So mention it, right? So that's like the broader way to end. But other than that, this is a very fantastic essay. I think this person did a good job. Even mentioned stats, right? To show that she's really acquainted with the key issues. Like I said, what are the academic debates in your area of study? Okay, cool. I'll just go to the next sample now. Again, think of the marking guide or the evaluation criteria in the previous slide. What do you think about this applicant? Do you think this person answered well? This is a study outline, I guess. Yeah. Do you think the person answered? Just type in the chat. Yeah, she's specific. She did broad, then narrow. Yeah, yeah, really true for the previous slide. What do you think about this? Anyone? Just type in the chat box. I like it to be as interactive as, even though we can't, people can't unmute themselves, but perhaps you could just type in the chat box. What do you think? Is it a good study outline? Does he or she follow what? Yeah, this is great and direct. Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. It is great and direct, and the person does some of the things we mentioned in the previous slide. The person mentioned why the University of Southampton, and obviously goes down to why her course. And so this person says, oh, I want to do something in public health, my choosing program, public health and nutrition with blah, 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 blah. So of course, it's good to, perhaps one little mistake I see here is that people usually want to talk about how an institution is like very well reputable and it's a really big institution. That's good, but generally, too, schools understand where they know where they stand. You don't really want to rub their ego. You can say this school is prestigious, but I would rather say that this school is very knowledgeable in this particular area. So it's better to start with this school is expert in. So for instance, I once applied for a program in data science recently, not exactly called that name, but I chose that particular school because they have like the best in terms of like they are really good when it comes to data science and development. I could have gone to some other schools and I could have said, oh, this school is really reputable, but they know they are reputable, they are not. But you really want to focus on why public health in this school, for instance, why media development in this school, for instance. Sorry, we are using a lot of social science examples. I really am a social scientist by training. So that's the point. Focus on why that course in that school. Then, of course, the other parts are really very fantastic. I'm looking forward to a stimulating learning environment where I can actively contribute ideas. Yeah. So, and then finally, the person close with their topic, right? I'm interested in researching on the effectiveness of ready-to-use therapeutic foods. Now, if you did read this essay to the end, of course, the person mentions their topic, but they also clarified some of the terminologies she used. She did that. So what I'm saying in essence is that have a topic, have a focus, an area of focus, and of course explain it, but don't use too technical terms. And when you use, do try to explain them. So you see this person did try to explain them. Interrupted time series analysis, study design. So, something like that. I hope this gives you a general idea. So yeah, I'm going to end in like 2 minutes so we can take questions. Clean up and proofread your essay. I can't emphasize that enough. Now, this is the same essay, right? If you look at my screen, but look at this, the one on my left side. I don't know what side it is for you. You can see my cursor, right? The one on my left side, and look at the one on the right hand. What difference do you notice? Anybody in the chat box? Like, what do you think is the difference between? Yeah. Anybody in the chat box? What's the difference? This is the same essay, by the way. This was like when the person sent to me before review. This is after I reviewed it. Yeah, one was really edited. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's the point. It's edited, but what are the points there? Number one is like the arrangements, right? Of course, it's not just the alignment. You can see I aligned it well to the left, but this is like kind of scattered. It doesn't matter anyway, but it's really well good to just kind of make sure the paragraphs are clean and it's short and well arranged. For instance, look at the opening paragraph, short, one is bigger, one is, so make it really well structured. Let the structure be even. But apart from that, look at the wordings, right? The I think the thing is that one was more elegant and direct. So let's take a look. The first one says, my name is XXD. I'm writing to apply for admission into master's degree program in democracy and governance at the University of blah, blah, blah. I obtained a bachelor's degree in DDD from the University of so. Now, I rephrased that this way. My name is this. I'm writing to apply for admission into the MA Democracy and Governance program at the institute in this university. I obtained a bachelor of arts degree in so in what year? So I included the year, and then it's not just about having a bachelor's degree. And so I'm writing to apply for an MA. I have a bachelor's degree. So what does that mean? You have a bachelor's degree, you're writing to apply for an MA, and this is why. So that opening paragraph was punchy and straight to the point. I have since gathered significant experience in a non-profit, social development, and civil society sectors. So my engagement within these sectors and the need to hone global competence in those areas have then motivated me to apply. So the coherence has to be there. I'm applying for an ME, an MSc in international security, but I have a bachelor's in sociology, and this is why I'm applying. This is what I've done that qualifies me for it. So you've got to be coherent. So that's the difference. It's the same thing. Obviously, the contents are there, but it's just about tilting things a little bit over. So yeah, that's the difference. You can just take a quick look at everything before call it quits. So avoid common mistakes. Do not copy and paste the content online. People do that every time your essay is checked for plagiarism. Be honest, but at the same time, I mean, do not be economical with the truth. So being economical with the truth means that you don't tell the full story, right? People kind of embellish and garnish what they do, which it's also always easy to see through. Check for grammatical errors. What not to include. Personally, I detest this. It's just funny, people including high school details in their statement of purpose. It's not really as important how you were senior prefect in your school and those kind of things. It's not really important. And then extracurricular activities, especially if you're applying for your PhD. Yeah, they ask you to write a statement of purpose or a personal statement for a PhD, but the focus is really not what you have done outside academics. A PhD is essentially research, right? You want to really focus on what research skills, research competence, research experience do you have, and of course, what academic or policy knowledge do you have about your space. That's not to say that you don't want to include other things you've done, like professionally, a couple of people who have experiences before they even start their PhDs, right? But the goal should be your academic or research focus, right? So stick to the word count. Stick to the word count. I think I'll just try to end like Grace. Stick to the word count. Now, many people, I know some schools will say, write a 1,000-word SOP. Do not go above. And actually, what I do when I apply to this kind of schools, on my personal statement at the top, I just put the number of words, 990 words or 995 words, for them to see that this applicant didn't go beyond. So they'll just not waste time trying to get my word count. But once you go beyond, it's just a signal that people are uninterested in whatever you write because it's just too long for them to read. Don't forget, this person has about 50 other essays to read apart from yours. Okay. So let's say it says write a 2,000-word and don't make it too short too, right? So let's say write a 2,000-word personal statement. If it says 2,000 words, it makes sense to write something about between 1,500 or 1,990, but just don't go beyond and don't go too low. Okay. So this is an example of a cleanly well done essay, but there's also some mistakes there. I'll just quickly point it out to see if that this person goes into their high school story, which is pretty relevant to what they're writing, right? So try to focus on the key thing, and then it's just too much unnecessary stuff here. And as you can see, something is missing here. So try to go straight to the point, right? That's it. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll take questions together, Grace and I, and then I guess, yeah, Babs, you can
Okay,
reach out.
thank you very much, Maximus. Apt as ever. You know, I don't think I'll ever be tired of listening to you because you come with huge knowledge and an expanded understanding of the subject matter. Thank you very much. So guys, we spent 1 hour exactly, and I'm happy we're keeping to time. So in the next couple minutes, we'll be asking, allowing you to ask questions. If you have questions, can you just drop on the chat box, please? Clearly, wisdom. You can just put it on the chat box. So I've seen about 2 questions already. Okay. Um. So both Maximus and Grace would, take the questions. But I think there's one question that has by Matthew. He said, "Are there Commonwealth scholarships that gives rooms for applicants with grades below upper credits?" And I think Maximus answered that already. Yes, depending on the quality of your professional competence. But I'm not a professional in Mastercard. So sorry, in Commonwealth of Maximus and Grace,
Yeah, I mean, generally, Commonwealth, like I said, it's better if you have a first or if you have a 2-1, but it doesn't mean if you have a 2-2, you won't be selected. And one thing that really helps, I know in 2019, there were a couple of guys who because they had 2-2s, um, they did a master's. Yeah, Commonwealth can take you even if you have a master's, but you just have to be able to prove to them why you're doing that. And in most cases, for people who had a 2-2, so if you have a 2-2, you can probably do a master's or a diploma, or I don't know what it's called, just to augment. But of course, if you have really solid academic experience, why not? So yeah. Or
Thank you
Grace, I
very
don't know if you
much.
have anything to say to that.
Grace, do you want to speak?
Okay, just to add to what Hala said, of course, they would prefer that, but I think the way you structure, I think that is just code. There's code for everything, so it doesn't mean they would turn off from hearing or trying to see what you've got, how you present your essays, the impact. I think that is like the height of it. So if you are able to ace the other segments, then not having a first class or 2-1 might not really count.
All right, thank you very much. The next question is, what can make one not get a scholarship even if they get nominated? So if someone has been nominated by the university, what situation may make them not get a scholarship?
Perhaps Grace, you want to speak to that? Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to throw light on one key aspect that will make you lose your chance of being selected even after nomination. Your reference is very, very important, because for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, is after nomination that your referees get to submit references. So for instance, none of your referees turned in, then of course you would lose your chance. Or maybe you had a bad reference, that's another example of a possibility. So your references are very important. They are like the final determinants. So work on your referees before you even apply. Follow them up. Ensure that you are sure of the content they are going to submit, or you trust this person's capacity to deliver a good reference. And if you have any doubt, you can suggest to your referee. Some referees will tell you, okay, because they may not have followed you up to know how far you've gone after you left school for academic references, you know. So you have to update them. Okay, since I left school, this is what I've done, this is the impact of, so that they have like cogent ideas about you, cogent stuff to include in your reference, which will heighten your chances of being selected. Yeah, so that's one. I don't know if Tola wants to add
Yeah, I
that.
guess that's it. I really don't know of anything else that won't make you um get selected even if you're nominated. Perhaps maybe English proficiency sometimes. But I also think usually they won't nominate you if you don't complete that process. So one thing is that your English proficiency can actually make you to be reserved instead of being nominated, because there are two ways to it. You can be a direct nominee, and you could be a reserved candidate. So which means somebody has to drop for you to get in. So I think that happened to me once. I didn't get the English proficiency letter from UI on time. So they were like, "Oh, you couldn't prove to us your English is good." So yeah, so try to get the letter or try to write your IELTS if your school insists you need an IELTS. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we'll move to the next question. So Grace spoke about how a lack of professional experience cost her a scholarship. What length or duration of professional competence is required to scale through the selection process?
Okay, let me speak on that. Now, this is where researching your institution comes to play, because fine, I applied for a scholarship through the Commonwealth Commission, but the school's requirement was that you have 2 years minimum relevant professional experience. Now, I had other experiences, but they were not directly relevant to the course of study. So check for the school's website. Different schools would have the duration. So for the school that rejected me based on experience, they had requested 2 years relevant professional experience. I had like 2 to 3 years worth of experience, but only just about few months experience were relevant to that course of study. So check, do your research on the school, know what they want, and then that's it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And just to add, I think the the thing about professional experience, really, I know for Chivney, have not applied for Commonwealth before, but I know that for Chivney, you must have 2 years professional competence. I mean, that's just given. In fact, it's more important than any other thing, in the application process. Just to mention that this is not the Chivney workshop. So then another question is to the second speaker, that's Maximus, I believe so. Why did you reject several Commonwealth scholarship and yet kept applying?
That's a very interesting question. So yeah, I mean it's quite personal, but perhaps the only thing that could be useful to you is that sometimes you get offers that you're not really interested in, but you still have them as a buffer. Yeah. So there were a couple of things I was targeting, but you weren't sure if that would work. So you need buffer. So if those don't work, then I fall to it. So Commonwealth as not my mainstay, but as one of the fallback plans. So yeah, it's just good to think about. It's not all Chivney, it's not all Commonwealth, it's not all MasterCard, it's not all Orange Knowledge. So it's everything together, and then whichever one comes, I choose the best. So yeah, I guess that answered.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm for bragging rights.
Yeah, perhaps.
I don't know, sure. I mean, that's just, that's just me being silly. Anyway, then another question to either Maximus or Grace would be, how do you apply to both the school and the board at the same time? Can you do it at the same time or differently to apply to the school and the board?
What do you mean the board? You mean the scholarship
I mean,
itself?
federal scholarship board. I think that's for Commonwealth
Oh,
scholarship, not the
I
Commonwealth
never
shared.
did. Maybe Grace wants to talk on
Yeah,
that.
I think Grace had that
Okay,
experience.
for Commonwealth, if you're talking about the board, FSB for Nigeria, it's different. Even for shared, you first have to apply to either the school or the scholarship. But as at the time of the end of the scholarship, you should have at least admission letters, conditional admission letters. So for the master scholarship, what I did was to apply to the board. You go to Abuja with all your 3 reference letters that have been turned in. There are some like FSB recommendations, documents to carry along. So you have to travel for the interviews. After the interview, that they get to pick out nominated candidates. I don't know if you get me. Yeah. So there's no specific application to the board. They would normally publicize the interview date. So you just show up, and that's where they pick it up from there. But for shared, you apply to the school for the course. That's prior to this year. I don't know how it's going to be like this year, if there's any major changes. Then you apply to the scholarship. There's usually a session for the scholarship application where you put your reference number from the institution. to show that you've applied, at least, even if you've not been given an offer, you've applied. So you don't have to wait until you get an offer to apply, really. But if you get an offer, it's better. But don't say, because my school have not gotten back to me, I won't apply for the scholarship. Just apply, but put your application reference number from the school into your Commonwealth scholarship application, so that they can follow up to see that you've actually applied. What you're waiting for is the admission. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think that's clear. But yeah. Then the third question: can you apply to more than one course in the same school?
Yeah, sure. I think that's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
So there is no, I mean, you don't have a limit. You just apply as many as you can. Just make sure you are turning in quality applications anyway. Then I got a conditional offer from one of the nominating institutions of the scheme, and the course of study is also eligible for the scholarship. What happens now? Do I apply to the scholarship application portal? Will they nominate me for the scholarship, or I need to apply to the school again?
I guess if you have a conditional offer from the school, try to fulfill the condition. So your admission in the school is unconditional. Then if you apply to the scholarship, I guess you stand a good chance. Perhaps since you already got a nomination for the Commonwealth. I guess the person is referring to Commonwealth because you mentioned agency, right? So if you are applying again to Commonwealth Shared now, try to ensure that you make your offer unconditional. Then the school would be likely to recommend you again, possibly. Or yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Grace, do you want to add anything?
Yes, I want to add, peradventure, this is someone that didn't get it maybe the year before, or let's say you've applied before, you still have an admission that you've deferred that is still cogent for this New Year's application. One thing, like Tola said, turn in another application, then there must have been a reason why maybe you were not selected the first time. That's for someone that has gotten it before and then your application has been deferred. Check out your essays, rewrite, don't copy past essays exactly the way, edit it again, check out for errors, and then turn it in again. And I think you stand a good chance. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's clear. For work experience, does it mean someone must have been employed and worked for several years? Or can we equate several engagements we had in institutions as work experience?
By several engagements in institutions, I suppose you mean your undergrad, yeah?
Undergraduate, I think so.
I don't know if the Commonwealth really asks for a place to fill your job. Okay, yeah, it does. Yeah. So no, you really can't, but you probably can if there are, perhaps you had internships in between that are relevant, or you had like some fellowship that involved some professional engagement, or you had an NGO. You really have to think about it as, does it really worth being a job? Not necessarily saying, for instance, I was vice president of a debate team. So I say work experience, vice president of a debate team. No, don't be too petty. But in that space, what could count possibly would be, let's say I had a 2-month internship. I remember I had a 2-month internship during my undergrad at Nigerian Tribune. That counts. It was while I was still in school, but that counts. So yeah, you can put extracurricular activities, but it has only to the extent that you think of it as a job, not just anything. But one thing that really definitely counts, and I tell you, is your volunteering experience. Even if you were just doing it on the side while you're in school, let's say you were volunteering for an NGO consistently, that really counts actually more than the in school extracurricular, like being president of the dance club and those kind of things. Yeah. Maybe Grace wants to speak more on it, but it has to be something that's concrete that could count as a job, even if it's volunteering or internship or some fellowship.
Yeah, I completely agree, Tola, with what you said. For something like being president of a dance club, probably where that can come in is in terms of leadership. And
Yeah.
you're not putting the dance thingy, you're just stating how you were able to coordinate as a leader and manage that thing. So that can come in for leadership. It may count a bit, but you're volunteering, like Tola said, it's more important. Community, how your contribution to society and all that matters more.
Thank you very much. We have about 11 minutes to go, so I'll rush the questions. Does Commonwealth Scholarship have specific course of study? They give this course. Yeah, I don't have to answer that question. So let me just send the link to apply. That's the link. So you probably want to check. So it gives you the breakdown of the schools, the eligible schools, and the courses. That's just it. Then the next question is, sorry, let me that I just mentioned about getting a letter of proficiency of English from UI. I wrote that exam in 2019. You mean IELTS? Can UI provide a letter on my behalf to that regard? I don't think that question is clear. Tola mentioned getting a letter of proficiency of English from UI. I wrote that exam in 2019. If you're saying exam, does that mean you wrote IELTS?
Oh, I
Can
think the
UI
person is referring to, there's an entry exam that UI does if you're applying for UI
for masters?
So yeah, which is English. No, you can't.
Okay,
You need to get the letter if you graduated from the school.
right. Okay, that's fine. Then does having a master's degree already in Nigeria limit one's chances?
Maybe to an extent it does, but to some extent it doesn't. So like I said, so and I think I'm in good space to answer this. So last 2019, when the first time I applied to Commonwealth, there were a couple of guys who had masters and they did get it. And actually the school did tell them that, look, this program is very competitive. You would be likely to get on it if you have a master's. Some other schools, on the other hand, would say, no, we don't want someone who already has a master's or who is doing a master's already. So check with your school. So yesterday I was browsing through this year, and I found out the LSC one actually would sponsor you if you have a master's from I don't want to use a developing country like Nigeria, right? But if you have already studied in the UK, they won't take you except you are able to really demonstrate why. So it really varies. Check with your school. But default answer might be that you might be disadvantaged, or you might also be advantaged. It really depends.
Thank you very much.
Both at least, yeah.
Then another question related to that is, how many application number can we upload on the CSC website?
I didn't get that.
How many application number can we upload on the CSC website? And I think that person was actually, when Grace was saying that while you're applying, you put in your application number on the application portal, the scholarship portal. So Grace, do you want to answer? Because if you apply to many schools, you probably want to, you have many, application ID. So what
Okay.
do you...
Let me just briefly talk on that. For each of the school, you have to apply for the Commonwealth. Does that for me, like I said, I applied to 7 schools and 7 Commonwealth scholarships. So you start the application from beginning for each of those applications. Do you understand? So you fill in this reference for maybe University of Southampton. You fill in another reference. You start a fresh application again for maybe University of Leeds. You start a fresh application. So it's like doing everything all over again. But I tell people, if you have a specific area of focus, just check through the schools that kind of align so that you are able to adapt your essays. I don't know if you get me. So it's not going to take you the time, like the length of time you have to rewrite and answer all those development essay questions. For instance, maybe you apply for nutrition, now you want to apply for biotechnology. You have to redo everything and change everything again. So it will pay you to, pick an area of focus, and then you can adapt your essays to the different institutions. So you get to do the application over and over and over from afresh. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The next question is, must the referee brief from my school? So they're asking about, must the referee just be academic references? Must they be from the school, from the undergrad?
I think, yeah, pretty well enough. It's good if they are from your undergrad. But I think there are 3 referees. Yeah, great. So I think 2 can be academic, then the last could be professional. So it works really fine.
Yeah, that's what I did. Two academic, 1 from work during my NYC, but the work is still academic. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah.
I only think that's a little bit different if it's Chivney, But then I mean, I don't know why I keep shouting Chivney, and of course, yeah. So Maximus, your mute, please. You're saying something.
It's good if we have people learning from everything. So the examples
I was just trying to. I mean, yeah, that was. I mean, yeah. we had the chimney, the chimney era is,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
still
so I'm currently on Mastercard. So I'd say for Mastercard, you just need a referee. It could, whether it's academic or professional or personal,
Mm,
you need a referee. So each school does it differently. But I've once applied to a program in some other schools. I mean, just to be specific, some of you could learn from it. I once applied to Oxford, and it says pre-academic, no negotiation. So it's really very, so pre-academic no negotiation would mean that it has to be somebody who has taught you. You don't want to go bring, I know a professor in UNNO, and the person writes for you. No, no. So it has to be someone who has taught you.
thank you very much. Can someone just apply to the school directly without the referee? Maximus, please unmute yourself. I mean, do you want to just get
Okay,
your?
yeah. I'm sorry. I keep muting myself. So if you can apply without a referee, if your program says you don't need a referee. My current program, I never needed academic referee. So if it says no need for reference, then you can apply. But most times, nobody will give an admission without academic reference. Yeah. So ensure you at least inform your referees on time. I'd say 2 weeks, a month actually, for some busy ones. So tell them, oh, I'm applying to this program. Actually, it's a way to also get their views or perspectives. Oh, I'm applying for a master of public health or a master of development. Sorry, I'm using. So they'll tell you, oh yeah, good. They encourage you. What do you think? You can even use that to both get in their reference and say, can you take a look at my application for me if you think this person is really grounded. So try to inform your referees on time, and then when you apply, it's easier for them to just to send right away.
All right, thank you very much. I think there is okay. I have a different passion from my first degree. If I'm getting referees, do they have to be from this new part of studies, or I can choose randomly? Say if you studied, Yoruba at university, and you have something different to study, for your master scholarship, and you need, an academic reference. Do you need a reference from your department, or you just choose?
Okay. Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think I'll be glad to answer that. Yeah, that's really tricky. So I read classics, yeah, which is pretty much an out of town course. Nobody knows about it. Most of you here probably don't know about it. But in short, it's ancient history.
I know
So
about it because I know you.
okay, yeah. So but and then from there I went to study public policy, and then I'm studying international developments, right? Yeah, it's tricky if you have a professor of classes writing you an essay, but it's also try to ensure that there's a kind of balance. So now there are two things they're looking for in your academic reference. Your references usually will write a general statement of you, what they know you for, your skills, your competence, but they also do grading, right? So I've actually been private to see people's how references are graded. So they would say in a class of, let's say, 20, can you rate this person? What's their percentile in the class? Does this person belong to the first 5 percentile, first 10 percentile? Now, they are not necessarily looking for what you studied, not the depth of what is being taught in classes is not relevant to, say, economics, but they want to see, is this person academically viable? Is this person academically brilliant? If the chances are that if you are able to excel in, let's say, linguistics, you are likely able to also excel in something like that's not so far from it, maybe something like development, maybe something like communication sciences, right? It's different from I read classics, then I want to do MSc physics and say, oh, a reference in classics is just enough. No, that doesn't make sense. But it has to be not far from each other, right? So don't worry. So far, the fields are kind of not too far. From, say, humanities to social sciences, from education to social sciences, or social sciences back to humanities, you can be able to wing things around. But if it's also very far, and I actually know people whose undergrad was, I know a friend who studied German. Of course, she's not Nigerian, and then she's doing an MSc in public health. And public health is also two sides. Grace will be able to attest to that. There's a social science part to it, and then there's a science part to it. She's actually studying the core science part at London School of Hygiene. But what she did, she had years of work experience, and they did, professional certifications, several courses, and then working with professors who are already in that field. So it was easy for her to say, can you write me a reference? Do you get the trick? So it may not be your undergrad lecturers. If you have enough tangible experience in that field and you've been able to roll with a couple of academics in that field. Actually, I once had a professor of political science write a reference for me, and he never taught me, but because he knew about what I was doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and just to also add, so I also have a very 360-degree curve. I studied, educational mathematics, and I switched to media and development. Interestingly, I got someone, the provost of an institute of journalism, who never taught me, but we've worked together on a couple of journalistic projects. He wrote the essay for me. I mean, the provost of a journalism institute, and that speaks to how you can have that, that switch. But the most important thing is they must always be ready to attest to your capacity to deliver, on the scholarship you're applying for. And I also know that while I was even applying to Sussex, a professor of educational management mathematics actually wrote a reference for me to Sussex. And so it's so, I mean, imagine a lecturer of, education writing a reference for, media and development at Sussex. So it all depends, but the most important thing is that they want to really know your capacity for, graduate school. That's really really it. And of course, your overall character in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I have it. Okay, reflecting on your university days, what activities did you engage in that might have aided your application? I'm in my final year of undergraduate studies. Okay, Maximus. Grace.
If that goes to Grace, maybe Grace can expatiate on it.
Was I think yeah you yeah the
So
but then
I mentioned
okay.
Maximus because I mentioned, I just knew that he was a jack of all trades, right, at the university. But Grace, you just give us your insights, and then we get Maximus to talk.
Okay, so I think for me, I really can't say if that was what stood me out, but I'm sure in one way or the other, especially when you're writing your voluntary and leadership experience, that's where most of these things count. So for me, I started volunteering very early. From my 300 level, I was going for community development, flood management, going to IDP camps, just contributing. Then I didn't even know that this would help with scholarship. I wasn't doing it for the long term. I just wanted to contribute. Literary and debating, I also did a bit of politics, departmental politics, but that's not more of volunteering, breast cancer awareness, community, all those stuff. I did quite a number of them, not so much, but I was able to communicate the key things I took out of those experiences, and also tied the experiences to my current, like, because I was going to IDPs, I saw mothers and under five children at their most vulnerable state. So I was able to kind of like still tie it back to why I wanted to do an MSc, and what I think doing this MSc and having this scholarship would help me give back, because I've seen the situation firsthand, and I think this is how I can come into. So you can just different experiences. Nothing. I used to say no experience is a waste. It's how you communicate. It might even be something that normally when you think about doesn't sound too relevant, but reflection, they just want to see how you were able reflect on this activity you did. What were the key changes you observed with yourself? How did it impact you, and how can you leverage on that knowledge to impact more people or your community or for development at large? So yeah, those were the experiences. Then I also mentioned about presenting abstract of my undergraduate study. I don't have a publication, but I've been able to go to conferences and present my abstracts from my undergraduate work. So that also speaks to the fact that you have like a bit of research idea, and you're able for you to be able to present an abstract on a study. It means you have some basic research um ideas, and yeah, a good fit to carry out a master's and then do like a research during your master's. So those are the key things I did. I would give the floor to Marvel, Maximus. Sorry.
No, for real. You're
Sorry, Maximus, before you get on, guys, do I have your permission to extend this meeting? It's 11:34. We are 4 minutes behind schedule. I'm not sure, but if you're happy that we should extend for the next 6 minutes so we can close by 11:40, do you want to just put it on the chat box? because I know that and I don't want us to, and apologies to Grace and Maximus. I know you guys have a lot of things on your desk, but we are actually exceeding time. So if you're happy that we should extend this meeting, can you just put it on the chat box so that I know that, yes, we have your permission? Okay, yes, okay, yes, keep coming. The eyes have it. Okay, that's fine. So we're not sure. Maximus.
Yeah. It's just for the sake of rituals. I think Grace has answered everything really, and I can actually remember taking a second eye at ISA. Yeah, she really had, perhaps even more than a couple of other essays I read. She had a lot of, even though she's quite humble about it, she had a lot of extracurricular or volunteering experience. So yeah, it could be the ones she did in school, it could be the ones outside school. Just try to, like she said, reflection is really important. And I open with saying that it's an introspective exercise. So they don't just want to see, okay, I was president of my department. You start just like, shopping list of things you've done. I was president of department, then I moved to become the president of the faculty, and I became the president of the school, through which I became the president of the entire youth community. Those are quite irrelevant stuff. What did you do? So, and while the person was saying it, just to be practical, so I went to look at, I just tried to open my Commonwealth application, the last one, and I looked at the volunteering and leadership experience. So I started with the most relevant ones, and this was like 3 years out of school while applying. So I started with the ones I was doing right now. Then the ones, let's say you're writing in 2021. What are you doing in 2021? Date back to 2020, back to 2019. Let's say you finish school in 2018. Then you can go into some little details of other things at school. It will be misplacement of the order for you to start from, oh, I did this in school. Then the things you are doing now I mentioned last. It really doesn't make sense, because the things you are doing now are probably way more than the things you did back then. So start from what am I doing now? What did I do last year? What did I do 2 years ago? And then what did I do when I was in school? So that's a good way to think about it. Yeah, just more importantly, reflect on the process and what you were able to achieve with it.
Thank you very much. So we have a lot of questions, and I'm afraid that, but it's fine. We'll try as much as possible to accommodate everyone. If you wrote Cambridge O levels, does it qualify as an English proficiency? Please
Um,
try. Okay, good.
it doesn't actually, and I have a couple of experience here. I was reviewing somebody's application recently. She was actually applying to the Oxford and Cambridge. No, it doesn't. How do I put it? It depends on the school. Yeah. So some schools, I mean, schools that accept WAEC, then means generally that they would even accept Cambridge O levels. But when schools say they want a higher level, some schools will say high level of English proficiency means that they're asking for IELTS if you can't write it, or a letter from your school. Usually a letter from your school would suffice, except some very, keen schools. Even some of, yeah. So usually try to get a letter from your school. It's just easy or simple. If your school hasn't done it before, a couple of friends, I just send them a sample of what I did for me, and their school just reproduced. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Uh, okay. The question is, let's say you got a conditional or unconditional admission offer from a university while applying for Chivney. Unfortunately, you got a love letter. Sorry, you got rejection. Uh, sorry, we call rejection love letter at Chivney. Apologies for using that word, but it's love letter anyways. That unfortunately you got rejection from Chivney, and the school that offers you admission is part of CSS eligible schools. Can you apply using the same offer you got while applying for Chivney with the school, or you need to apply to the school again?
No, you just use it, since the offer is existing, right? You just apply. In fact, all you need to do is just to apply to Commonwealth. So it will go back to them. They will see, oh, this person applied to Commonwealth. And if it makes sense, why not?
Thank you very much. I would like to ask if references to the work of an essay can be made in an essay.
Yeah, you can. I know what you mean. I've seen a couple of personal statements that way. But for Commonwealth, there isn't so much space to do that, right? Where do you really want to? Perhaps in your study outline, you can say, I'll build on the work of using it. Maybe this person has developed an academic theory you know about and you want to build on it. I'll build on the work of Kintidi 2016, which proves the theory of something in media. But it's not so much as important. But for schools that don't use this kind of methods, as like Commonwealth, let's say they say submit a form, submit a proposal, then you can be able to elaborate in depth, right? But for Commonwealth, I don't think you have so much space to do that.
Good stuff. Must you have completed your NYC before you apply?
Perhaps Grace wants to talk on that.
I know that for the Commonwealth Master Scholarship, the one that FSB would nominate you, the one from federal government, NYC is mandatory, but for shared, I didn't see any place where you were asked to include. But I used an experience I had during NYC, but it doesn't mean it's a requirement. But for Commonwealth Masters, yes, it is.
Thank you very much. I think that's pretty straightforward. FSB would. I honestly don't know. People that have applied through FSB, they give horrible stories. They recount horrible experience about how it is the Nigerian way. So, just anyways, story for that day. Do you need to convert any of your academic grade to international standard?
No, the school will do that, except you are doing maybe US schools like they do.
Yeah, not for UK schools, especially from Nigeria. Also, do you need any English proficiency test like IELTS? I think we've answered the question over and over again. You have to get on the school and look at the requirements. If they want WAEC, say they'll get for you. If you know, just read on that. But get English proficiency. Sussex would accept WAEC certificate, for instance. I did IELTS, but I didn't get to use it for Sussex because my WAEC results would just go. So just check with the school, and then I think it's school specific. Really, it's school specific. Does NYC experience qualify for a volunteer experience? Yes. Yes, it depends on the relationship between your experience and the course you're planning to do anyways. So for my Chivney application, my NYC actually counted. Yeah, it counted.
Really. I think it's in Nigeria we try to make a difference.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's in Nigeria. If you serve with a PPA that works, it's because you're just a core member to the Nigerian government. Even the organization would even treat you normally in that space. But yeah, it is what it is. How can people that graduated from faculties not using grading system explain their grades? E.g., I studied veterinary medicine and everybody passed with pass. Won't this discourage the reader?
Okay, no, pass. You mean on your certificates or in the transcript? Because you did a couple of courses throughout your undergrad in vet, right? What they look at is they look at each course, like what was your grade on the course. So if you mean the course is graded pass or I've seen pass or no pass, it's quite an American style, pass or no pass. So that is not the problem, right? Because they will look at your individual courses. So I don't think you should worry so much about that. And then even with country differences, so schools don't just take everything as straight jacket. For instance, a 4.0 in some schools in Nigeria, which is 4 out of 5, is probably not the same as a 4.0 in UI, which is a 7 grade point, right? So if a 4.0 in UI is probably lower than a 4.0 in schools that use 5 grades. So don't worry about that. Just ensure you are speaking to the overall coherence, right?
Yeah, and I also think if they, especially for schools, if you're applying to schools, if they have questions regarding that, they probably would email you to clarify. Most times they would email you to ask you, hey, we are the one in charge of your application. Do they would do that in that sense. I mean, at least I have that experience. Is the application to school free? It depends on the school, really. It depends on the school. Some schools, in fact, if you're applying for scholarship, you can actually apply for a waiver. You can apply for a way that you don't, but it depends on the school. The most important thing, like Grace and Maximus have been emphasizing since morning, is that, check the instructions, and, take it forward from there. My volunteering experience did not really tally with my course. Can I still use it? E.g., I studied vet medicine, but I'm presently volunteering for a company that deal with children with autism. It's very easy for me to use it as. Is this very easy for me to as a volunteering experience? Okay, so you study veterinary medicine, you're volunteering for an NGO that deals with children with autism. Okay, yeah. I don't know what are you applying for your graduate school? I think that's the point we want to help us with. Are you applying to study autism related course or veterinary medicine again? If you can do that on the chat box, I think that will guide Maximus or Grace to respond to you.
I think Grace touched on that already, though. Perhaps she might want to expatiate.
Okay, yeah, so it really doesn't necessarily have to be in line. It's volunteering experience. They understand what volunteering experiences are. It's just a way to see that you have this mindset of impacting community development, that's just like the key thing they want to take. It's not really about what you did, but the fact, here volunteers are really appreciated because nobody is paying you. It means you are not first motivated by money. And then the fact that you are able to give time, give energy to something that you're not getting anything back. It speaks so much to your person, and the fact that if they commit this scholarship into your hands, they know that you will come back and you want to do something, you want to develop. So that's what the volunteering experience speaks to, not necessarily the connection. But of course, if there's a connection, like for me, there's some experiences I had that were in direct touch with what I wanted to do. You can find the connection there. It's fine. But if there's no connection, it really, you should still, that's why there's a separate segment for volunteering and leadership. What they are testing is not really about the study. They just want to know the kind of person that you are. You are self-motivated, you have passion to contribution. That's really the take. If there's a link, beautiful. If there's no link, still put it there. It's relevant because it speaks to your person much more than, yeah. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think just to say that, in the UK, I mean, in advanced countries, the value time. They value time, and my experience is that they pay you per time. It depends on, for everything you do, they pay you, so they really appreciate time. So for you to have said, you volunteered for this number of organizations while you're not getting paid for it, it means that yes, this one is public spirited in that sense, and it speaks more to your person, as a responsible citizen, than that can't. And that's the spirit that they are trying to even check, not really about the how it's related to the cause, or something, or unless you're applying for any other thing regarding to that volunteering experience. Then for Chivney, does proof of English proficiency suffice? No, not anymore. So Chivney won't bother about your, so up until last year, because COVID, Chivney used to, ask for a IELTS 6.5 or 6.0 or something. But now it's been removed. So all you have to do is to deal with your university. So Chivney would not require, so they believe that if you get an offer from a university, then you must have satisfied the English language requirement. So that's it. So it's between you and the school, not Chivney anymore. I think that's it. Please, how can I get a letter from UI for English proficiency? NASU has been on strike for months. Nigeria. Maximus, your people,
How can I do what? Get a letter from, sorry, I was carried
from
away.
UI for English proficiency.
Ah,
NASU has been on strike for months.
well, you probably need to, I don't know, like, you need to work on your internal links, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, someone is saying the strike is over. So so you probably want to check back. I think the strike is over. So, but the letter can be out in 3 days, depending on the internal links, and it can be delayed for as long as 7 months. It depends. Just just try, just get the next ride to UI on Monday and get on. Then does anyone know how one can get transcript within 2 weeks in UI?
These are UI issues. I think you.
I mean, Maximus,
But I'd say, frankly, try to work on your internal links.
yeah, internal links, important. I mean, yeah, perhaps if anybody here can connect me with someone working there. Oh, sorry, this is, okay. You don't need, okay, yeah, thank you. Apart from including volunteer leadership experience or a personal statement in the portal, how else can we prove that we actually volunteered or led? Is it by getting data from the organization or institution?
If it's in the essay itself, just write. They just want you to write. But if it's well, I get what the person means. So usually the school wants to verify, or the scholarship commission wants to verify. That's why the reference letters speak to that. Of course, it might be tricky if your reference letters were just academic. Yeah. So that's why I'd advise, if you have 3 references, like for scholarships like this, do 2 for academic, then the other one, let it be professional. So the person can be able to speak to what you've done and stuff. So yeah, just make it balanced.
Yeah, and I think for Chivney, because you would have interview, so they probably would ask you about it, and that would be an opportunity to ask. And what I did really, would be me evidence. So what I was writing that I've done this, there's an hyperlink. So I just try to like put it there. So if there is Google Drive that explains the pictures, the videos from my events, or social media posts, or news reports, so that's the evidence to say yes. I know most of them will not even check, but I'm trying to let them know that I'm not lying about this thing. I have done this, I've done that. So I try to hyperlink the question, and hyperlink will take just two word count from your, if you use Bitly. So it will just take 2 word count. So it's pretty much manageable. So I think I had about 10 hyperlinks. Apology. This is not, I mean, I'm just that's just me. But you don't, if you have experience, maybe you can upload all the pictures in a drive and then put it there, just for you to let them know that, yeah, this is what I have done. And if it's a social media post, maybe LinkedIn post, most especially, you can just add it, just so that they may not check, but they are trying to tell them that, yeah, see, I'm not lying about this thing, because people can cook up a lot of interesting lies, and or do you want to add anything, Grace, Maximus?
For me, no.
No, I think hyperlinking works, because I remember part of my essay I talked about having an organization, like co-founding with some people. I put the website there, a link. So all those things can count to prove beyond all doubts that you actually did these things. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Then someone asking that, any idea on how I can get volunteering experience for engineering courses? Internship, please. Someone is, thank you for responding. Yeah, seek internship with, firms doing what you're interested in. Internship. Thank you. Okay, looking at Achieving and Commonwealth Scholarship. Which one is better? Oh my God. I don't know. Oh, the Achieving.
Me, I'll say it's Commonwealth.
I mean,
Well, technically, to
they
say
actually administered by the same, office, the
yes,
Foreign and Commonwealth
and the
Development
package is
Organization.
exactly the same. It's just a
Yeah,
little different. I knew Shivni, they didn't refund complete your TB
TB, they gave
thingy,
us
but
75
we
pounds.
everything is complete,
Yeah,
150
but
pounds.
then you still cheat
And
me.
Shivni, you have to go back and stay for 2 years compulsorily.
So guys,
I can't keep calm. So this is. I mean, I probably will not allow this to fly, because this is not a Chimney Commonwealth debate. So I'm always for Chimney and Sussex for life. So Grace, yeah. So it depends on you, really, guys. It depends on you, and it depends on your plans. And it also depends on your reality. If you have done 2 years work of professional competence and you're sure you have fantastic leadership experience, I would advise you go for Chivney, especially if you don't have, I advise you go for Chivney. Chivney, if you don't have first class, Chivney would not, they don't even care about that. I mean, it's pretty much, even though, but Commonwealth is also in that space. And, it depends on you, really. It depends on you, honestly. I can't say which one is better. I know someone who got Chivney, who got Commonwealth, and who got Erasmus.
Mm.
I was confused that, like, what do I do? So you can apply for many scholarships, so that, like Maximus said, so you can have a buffer. You are able to say, okay, because you have nothing to lose applying. Actually, it's just the time. I mean, I know it's the time and the resources but you probably can put your energy to it, and you can even oscillate around the essay. But I mean, Chivney over any other, even over Mastercard, even though Maximus would use his MacBook to. Anyway, guys, just get one. Get one. That's the most important thing. Or you can get all and then decide which one you would go for.
Yeah.
Out of all the schools, which one is less competitive to get an offer? My God.
there are hundreds of schools in the UK.
Yeah.
Your research. But that's actually not. Nobody's going to tell you this is competitive to get an offer. Because it's also not about the school, it's about your program. Let's say some programs have 20 applicants and they need 15. You will see, they will say this is the number of places you are able to offer. Some programs, on the other hand, have like 300 applicants and they can only take 20. So it's relative. It depends on your course, depends on your school, depends on, just do your research for that. There's no straight answer to that.
And the interesting thing is, at least for most schools in the UK, there is at least one unique thing about them. There would always be something that's that's fantastic about the school. Sussex, for instance, is the best in development studies globally, over Harvard, over Edinburgh, over Oxford. So and that's me, just me. So it depends on you, like Maximus said. And okay, being aware that there are specific themes. What do I do if the courses available are not really in line with mine? Because it seems major STEM courses are not available. Thank you.
I
I get
think
what you mean. The courses, the Commonwealth courses, even the ones that are STEM, they're kind of development, tilted, right? So I get what you mean. Maybe you want to do something core engineering or core tech. And that's a really interesting question. I would say this person can reach out to me on LinkedIn and then we can see because it's also about how you titrate it anyway. You'll be surprised to see how that the course title might be totally different from what you're doing by the time you getting in depth, right? So you might see something like sustainable engineering and development. By the time you get in, you're actually doing core stuff in sustainable engineering and energy alternatives. So this person can talk to me on LinkedIn.
Okay, thank you very much. You probably want to help us drop your LinkedIn link. Sir, you're mute, bro.
Just my name on the screen.
All right. Then if you someone is saying that if you need help with UI transcript, I can help. So can you just check if you ask question about the transcripts, can you just check and DM the person so you can take it forward? Thank you very much for offering to help, sir. Mr. Kende, can you help with your contact? Okay, that's
outside our.
You said?
I said whatever transaction you have with each other.
That's it's beyond us. I mean, yeah. So, does CSS give room for post-school work experience in the UK after your postgraduate course, or you must return to your country immediately? Grace.
This is very dicey. Of course, you're expected to return because they'll book your return flight, but there's no clause to say you must stay for a certain period of time before you can come back. It used to be like that, but it's no more applicable like that. So some people go back and then come back because your visa will usually be like 6 months extra after you. So you can just go back and then return, or whatever your plan is. You can talk to me later for further details. And then
So,
postgraduate PhD route is another way of staying back, or like, so they are different, but it's not strictly cast in stone that you have to go back and remain where you're coming from. You just have to go back for the farewell event and every other thing that follows, but you can always still return back.
okay. Someone is typing that you guys are funny. Chimney is quite popular. I'm not sure. This is just from the chat box. So we are over that.
Why do you choose the things that rub Chivney's ego? Why do you
someone is on the chat box. I mean, that's not me. It's not from me.
Just get one, I would say.
Get one. That's the most important thing.
That's the most important thing. I had guys, like most of my friends, the one that got Shivni was rejected from Commonwealth.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't apply for Shivni. There are some that Erasmus got took. So just spread your eggs, spread your options. If you get everything, check, okay, which one is more in line with where you are going.
Right.
Forget about prestige. The package is almost always
Of course.
same.
I mean, it's always almost the case though that you don't get multiple nominations. To be frank, like people paint it as, oh, it's just once you apply, you get multiple nominations. I've seen people reach out to me currently. They're so I applied to MasterCard and Commonwealth. By the way, please no sirs. And I was like, oh yeah, which one do you think I should choose? And I'm like, you've not even been selected. You need to calm down and just get selected. So get one. I mean, what you need is one. If you get two, fine. You are going to take one anyway. So don't worry.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think we're done. So you guys are saying, okay, if you've been shortlisted for Chivney, that's fine. I'm happy to help. With your mock preparation. Maximus is always there to help. Just reach out on LinkedIn. Grace is also available for guidance. Moving forward in applying for. Okay, I think we're good. We're good. We're good. Someone is saying media and journalism. See, if you probably don't want to reach out to me to ask about schools that offer media and journalism courses. I mean, that's pretty much the basic things you should know. I mean, they are all on the internet. Just a quick, a quick glance on Google would give you that. But I'm happy to offer, more expanded explanation around all those things. Okay. Is it the same with Chivney compulsory return after one study? So for Chivney, you have to return 2 years. So, I mean, you have to return home for 2 years because the reason why you have to get a scholarship, you wanted to get a scholarship in the first place is just so you can help, improve the Nigerian situation. That's the point. And so you have to return. And I can't wait to return anyway. So yeah, you have to return. That's it. So okay, thank you very much, everyone. It's been an insightful 2 hours, interestingly, and it feels like we've not even spent an hour. But I appreciate that, you guys. So I will try to unmute you all so you can just on your video, you can just put on a shout out. And Olaolu is here, the founder of the the Young Leaders Youth Council, TYLC. Olaolu, can you just give us a shout out? Thank you for putting this together. So, Olaolu, are you there? So, okay. Okay, guys. Thank you very much. So the recording will be made available to you, and also we are planning to take this forward by okay, we are planning to create a community to guide you, or moving forward. So do you want to just fill in this feedback form so that I am able to send you the link to join the WhatsApp group? So just a sec, please.
Please come again. Can you?
So we are trying to have you all join the WhatsApp group, but try to fill this form, this this feedback form. So if you fill it, don't worry, we will send you the link to join the WhatsApp group if you're interested, and we'll also send the link to join the link to get the to watch the recording once it's out. So thank you very much, guys. So you can tweet. I sent the link to the WhatsApp to the Twitter handle that you can tweet us just to say, okay, whatever you get from here, then we are able. So you can on your video, so I can take a screenshot, and if you're able to on your video, that will be interesting. Let's see. Let's put face to the. Okay, so sending. Can wait. You will be. Babs, I'll be in your DM on Twitter. Grace, I'll be on your DM. Maximus WhatsApp. Okay, be on the DM. That's fine.